Welcome to episode 15 of Paranormal Unwrapped with Krista Raisa and Jack Roth. Krista is a channel for the Orion Council, teacher, and creatress. Jack is an investigative journalist, author, and award-winning filmmaker. In this segment, we are discussing the Astral Plane, also known as the fourth dimension. So what dimension are we in now? Exactly.
I think we're in the third. If I'm correct, but I could definitely be wrong. But yeah, I guess we live in a three-dimensional world. So, but you know what, Krista, we talked about this last week. We really wanted to do an episode on Astral Plane. Mm-hmm. And then Vivian Chauvet was going to join us today because she is on that. She understands it. She has had experiences within it, and was really going to kind of add a lot of input. We're just going to interview her for an hour and a half, and she's having serious technical difficulties on her end over in Phoenix. So she may be listening, and if you are, Vivian, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to have questions that, if there's any way you can answer via live comment, go for it. And then we'll kind of go from there and see, answer those questions, and we'll read them to the audience. If not, we're going to get so people understand, we're going to get Vivian on to talk in more depth about this. But yeah, Krista, I'm excited because, like, for me, like, I don't understand the astral plane very, very well. And I think I've had a couple of really interesting experiences in the astral plane through dreamlike states, if you will. But I don't know for sure. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you know and what you have to say.
You saw that movie Inception, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
He has the spinner and he puts it in his pocket to make sure he remembers what layer he's in. And in that, he's going into a dimension. Oh, no. Sorry, that movie. And then also, did you see Doctor Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch and Tilda Swinton?
Yes.
Where he has the red cape and she has the symbols that fly around her hands. So there's this. There is a Final Cut Pro, module or whatever, and Ra used this in my rap video. So it looks like you have one world and then it folds onto itself and creates two, and then it can fold and create four. And so Astral Plane was described in an app called The Fifth Dimension, which is no longer available. It explains it mathematically with a drawing of our third dimension, and then this other world just overlaps it and then kind of duplicates itself. So I just made a video with some insights about that, but here's a really good description from a guy called Robert Bruce. And for those of you starseeds who want to learn more, you can take my class called The Spiritual Planes and Dimensions on the Teachable platform. The link is below. It goes like this. The astral is the closest subtle dimension to the physical universe. So that means it is a dimension of our physical world. The astral flows on from real time zone, but is best thought of as separate. So the real time zone is the layer right above ours. When people are going to sleep, they will, a lot of the time, astral projectors who are leaving their body will see people in this real time zone kind of hovering like this, like with their heads down, floating, and they're more in a sleep state. So they're not conscious projectors. And the literature suggests that there are 7 planes to this dimension.
Okay.
Each one being more or less dense. So Earth is really dense. So as you go higher, you have less of a density. And they describe their astral bodies as looking just like this one, but it's just not as tough. And the longer you spend time in that dimension, the less you start craving stuff like food and earthly desires. But yeah.
That's really interesting. And what I'm thinking is there are a lot of applications to this, and I'm thinking right away therapeutic applications, but also spiritual soul searching applications. And we can get to that when you start talking more about what you understand it to be. But
Mhm.
I'm thinking if we are the astral plane is a place that allows us to communicate in ways that maybe we can't communicate in the 3D on this plane that we're on right now. So like in on our current consciousness, you and I are on a radio show right now, we're talking blah blah blah. But when
Mhm.
we go to sleep tonight, if we were to somehow be able to access the astral plane, whether through meditation or sleep or wherever we are in that layer of consciousness or subconscious that we need to be, then think about the practical applications for communication there. And we could talk about that more, but I'm thinking, let's say, for example, you have there's someone that that lives on the other side of the world, and you say, look, we're going to meditate tonight, we're going to open ourselves up, and we're going to tell each other, and we're going to attempt to meet in the astral plane tonight. That should be possible.
Mhm.
But whether it happens or not is quite another thing. So, but I guess that's my thought right off the bat. But you said that it takes work, right? That you have to kind of, what's required for you to be able to get to that place?
That's why I want to have an astral projector on the show, because I did take an online class with a group of people who knew how to project, and sure enough, I had a dream of Mount Shasta because we agreed to meet up there, and I saw Bigfoot, and it was really cool. But otherwise, I'm not able to do that. So maybe it takes training with someone who knows how. But William Buhlman had a technique of something like 40, taking 40 breaths or some count of 40. And you have to constantly tell yourself, he has a whole list of techniques in his book, Adventures Beyond the Body, where you tell yourself, I'm out of my body, I'm out of my body, I'm out of my body. And there's definitely certain events that can trigger that. A lot of people message me going, hey, I was frozen. My physical body was frozen. What does that mean? And the only reason I know, and some people are like, no, that's not the reason, but the only reason I know that's repeated is you having trouble entering and exiting your body, which happens through the nadis, which are certain points. And Buddhism teaches that an advanced soul will leave through the crown chakra when it dies. So our astral body will always leave our body when we die. And they teach about the correct way of dying. Supposedly a less advanced will go through the leave through the lower chakras, but you can achieve this, I guess, death ascension thing when you have the right thoughts. And more often than not, people upon death find themselves corresponding with their inner condition. So if you're having negative thoughts, you're an evil person on the inside and you tricked everyone, giving to charities, but you were secretly evil, you will find yourself in that evil realm because that's your true inner condition. But people who have positive thoughts, who are detached from materialism, like old souls, will have a very easy time leaving. So younger souls, supposedly, this is the Michaels channeling, Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough channeling, is they want to stay attached. So they're like let's say a hustler and a thief who wants lots of money and sex. They will find themselves in that realm. There's an episode of The Twilight Zone, and he's like, yeah, this is great. I've been gambling all day, and he keeps winning the money. And there's this guide there, this kind of fat older guy dressed in a tux is like, and so what are you getting out of this? Like, you've been doing this now for 30 days. You want to keep going? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, man. I have all these women here. I have all this money, but it's just not doing it for me. And so it's like this eternity loop in this lower plane of his own creation. And it's just fascinating.
Right.
Did you say that you had dreams? We mentioned the akashic records before going live. Have you heard about that, or dreamt about libraries or vehicles like flying machines?
No, from what I've been told, and this is interesting for listeners and viewers. you have dreams, right? So, and we are going to try to get a dream expert on here at some point, because but not just a dream expert. There's a psychological aspect to dreaming, obviously, and there's stress dreams if you dream about tornadoes, or if you dream about not having studied for an exam, even though you haven't been in school in 30 years. That's a stress dream. So your subconscious is letting all that stress out at that point, and you're doing that in your REM sleep. But there's different levels of so you have your alpha, beta, delta wave level of sleep, right? And there's that deeper level, but that's even deeper than REM. So REM, when you're sleeping, you dream, you at a certain point in your life, you become familiar with the types of dreams you're having, and you know your dreams. You have and then every now and again, you'll have a quote unquote dream that seems like it's more than a dream. And what I say there is it's as if you're going someplace you already know that you've never seen before, or a place in a time you're extremely familiar with but you've never seen before, right? That you can't remember. And people that you don't know, or a group of people that you don't know, or a soul group of people you know on this planet that are all in the dream. And it is a different kind of dream. And you can come out of that dream when you wake up in the morning, and the dream is with you forever. Like you think you could talk to me a week after, and I can tell you that dream from beginning to end in detail, because it was different. There was something different about it. Now, when I spoke to Vivian about this, because it was very interesting, some of the stuff that was going on with me, and I was like, okay. And I go, is this just a dream? Like, and she goes, there's a difference between a regular dream and an astral plane kind of contact that you have in your dream state. And I wish she was able to come on today, but we'll talk to her down the road. But she would explain that in detail. And there is that difference, but I find that it's more emotional. So if you have an astral, I guess there are people who are astral travelers who can just go out of their bodies. They feel like they're out of their bodies, and they can feel like they're floating above, and they can kind of explore the world. And there is something to that. And there's a meditation to that. And people do that, I've heard.
Leia Capitelli is one in Australia, and she has all sorts of galactic experiences. Leia Capitelli, I recommend. That would be great to interview her. And
so she's saying that she basically does that kind of astral traveling. Yeah. I think more along the lines, for me, the experiences I've had, and I don't know if other people I know have had these experiences, but they may not have even recognized it, is that you're having this dream, and there's something about either the place or the people in it that's different. And it could be, in a way, you could keep going back there. Yeah, you can have recurring dreams, but you could also, in your subconscious at this level, where would your astral body want to go? There's a question. Yeah. So what are we trying to achieve in the astral plane, as opposed to, go ahead. Yeah.
It's your desire. The astral body is called the desire vehicle, which is why, I love information from David Wilcock, but he explained one yogic siddhi the complete opposite of what I've read it is. And that was, he said it's the suppression of all desire, whereas another teaching says the siddhi, the gift and ability, is you're able to achieve anything you desire. Therefore, it somewhat discounts the entire astral body. The desire body is changing color constantly. It's rainbow colored. When you have two people in the same room and they're having maybe romantic thoughts about each other, the energy field will look magenta in color. And that's, you're having desires or secret fantasies or whatever. And one time I was at a festival, and it was totally embarrassing, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. Like I was sinning or something, which I wasn't. I was just kind of having a chat with a guy, and it was kind of a flirty discussion. It wasn't like sexual. It was just, we were having a good time in each other's presence. And this 13-year-old who could see aura said, "Yeah, Krista, you're all orange." And that's the second chakra here, which is concerned with how you relate to others, your emotions, your sexuality, and your creativity. And so all of those things kind of combine to create these colors. So it's not just, it's not just one of those things. And that was really interesting too. So it wasn't rosy and like lovey. It was more funny, jokey humor. I would guess, yeah, comedians have a lot of orange. But anyway, it's definitely about what you want. Where do you want to travel at nighttime? What's your interest?
Or who do you want to communicate with? I mean, that you can't communicate. So so we take this to a soul level, let's take it to a soul level, which it is, right? So in the astral plane, is this where we access, like you talk about the akashic records, right? Where you can basically, I say download, but you have access to all the knowledge about everything, everywhere at your fingertips, and you just know it, right? So it's there for you because it's within you anyway. But in the astral plane, we have maybe better access to that than we would right now, you and I just sitting here talking.
Well, are the akashic records one place, like one dimension, or are they actual libraries? Because supposedly they're infinite kingdoms in the astral plane. When Robert Bruce projects, he's flying over this purple plane of squares, and in the middle of each square is a lotus jewel, and he flies into the jewel and enters, like a pirate kingdom or a animal kingdom or whatever. So is that like, are there multiple libraries? Because in No Solar, this guy was giving him a tour going, those are the libraries of knowledge. That's the communications tower. That's the healing one. That's the one where they send messages back to Earth for preparing people for reincarnation.
Right.
I want to know. I want to know the places. But they said mapping the astral plane is like trying to map our universe or our galaxy on foot. It's nearly impossible to map out the astral plane.
Oh, interesting.
And,
so you have, so the idea that, okay, so accessing, is when people talk about the akashic records, is it a place or is it a thing, right? It's both, obviously. I mean, in other words, if you say the akashic records are a thing, because they are the records of all knowledge, everything that's ever happened since the beginning of time is there for you to understand. But it's also, in order to access it, you're going to a place.
Yeah, it's almost like you go instantly there. And so when you're in the astral plane, you have a thought like, I want to be in Paris. Within moments, you will be in Paris. Here, we have to take a plane and take 2 days to travel there. But in astral plane, you're there within minutes.
Okay. So the astral plane, is that what it's like when we die, or is that in between? So in other words, is the astral plane the plane where souls exist, or is it even higher than that?
Yes. So just so everyone knows, I have a whole lesson and lecture in the Spiritual Planes Dimension course on the astral plane with all the main stuff you need to know. But when souls transition, they will find themselves in a transitionary place according to their beliefs and mindset at the time of death. For example, some people find themselves at an airport. Some people find themselves in what's called the Summerlands. So there are people in a line, going towards the thingy. Some people talk about this white light tunnel thing. Some people talk about 2 tunnels. Some people are floating right above their body in the hospital, seeing everything. And then their guide or grandfather shows up to help reorient them. Some people find themselves like suicide cases. It's called kama loka to the Hindu. And suicide cases are pretty much in their own hell. What's his name? Fernando Luis Channel. Andre Luis was a spirit name change. Through a channeler in No Solar, he found himself in this lightning place with mountains and dirty people that were like ripping at him and crying because he had killed himself. So you don't want to do that. Next.
So wait, so that, well, well, that would get us that gets us to purgatory. So like, what is it? And right. So where is that?
There's religious people, very common, early 1900s, religious people created a fire brimstone. A lot of people live that reality through their beliefs. So some people believe they are saints. Some people believe they are sinners. They actually create that in the astral plane.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel like
Some
the
say
astral
stuck
plane is just
here on Earth. Some say stuck here.
stuck here. Well, that's the whole ghost thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, let me ask you, Krista, because I think anyway that I've had some experiences that I can remember in the astral plane.
Mm-hmm.
How about yourself?
Well, why don't you tell us? Because I suck at deciphering whether that's really a projection or just the Freudian psychoanalytical secret fears, desires, wish fulfillment.
Exactly right. And apparently there's a difference, and the difference is in the emotional. Well, I think it's intuitive. And I think that's an important part of this, because I think when you wake up in the morning or you're meditating and the next thing you know, you have this experience and then you come out of it, you have to use your intuition to determine, because this isn't tangible stuff. This is not stuff we can measure yet. I always say yet. It's not like I say, hey, we're going to hook your brain up tonight and we're going to determine whether you're having a REM dream, right, about tornadoes and cigars, or you're actually in the astral plane. Well, we can't measure that. So we can't tell the difference, right? So I think intuitively you have to understand. The better you understand yourself, the more you say, wait a minute, that was, I have felt like there have been a lot of, I say time travel. It's not time travel the way we look at time, but, and like if you have a dream and you keep, and this is an example of a dream I have. Okay. And I call it a dream, but I keep going to a place that's familiar to me, but that I've never been to before. And it's around turn of the century. So maybe New York. Mm-hmm. Now, in this lifetime, I was born in 1965 in New York. Okay.
1965?
So I was 65 in New York, in Brooklyn. So
okay,
this is this lifetime.
That's not turn of the century, though. Turn of the century is 1905.
This goes back to, I'm thinking late 1800s, somewhere 1860, 1870, 1880. From what I gathered, there's no cars at all. It's all horse buggies.
Oh, okay.
I
thought it was like a combination, you're saying, but you're saying.
No.
You're saying you had two past lives?
No, I'm saying that I have this recurring quote unquote dream where I go back and I'm in this place. It's very familiar to me. The buildings are familiar. There's this alleyway that's extremely familiar to me. And there's this store down the alleyway that sells all this kind of dry goods and meats, and the meat's hanging outside. And there's a bunch of stuff that's in this store that you can buy. And it's totally familiar to me. Mm-hmm. And the feeling I'm having also too is that I'm supposed to meet someone there, or that I lost someone there and I'm trying to find them. Mm-hmm. And this is, and it's a very emotional dream. Okay. And I've had this dream, not the exact, but I've been in the place. It's not the exact same things happening, but it's back there. And there's a wharf. There's this waterfront area where there's this huge wooden building with really high ceilings. And it's like people, when they come and they come by boat or whatever, and they're, whether it's sailors or whoever, they go to this place and have beer, they have some grog, or they have whatever, and and they eat, and it's just like this huge place, but it's just all wooden. Like it would, like if it caught on fire, it would burn down in 5 minutes. One of those places
with some burlap bags with grains. Exactly
right. Yeah. And just people dogs. Exactly right. Right. And it's just, it's there. But and then I say to myself, well, am I having a past life recollection, which could be totally different than being in the astral plane. Right. Or am I accessing the astral plane in order to go back to that and remember it? Or is this the akashic records that I'm accessing, that I'm able to remember a past life?
Yeah, it takes energy to remember, to have the reconnaissance. it can take time to gather the memories. And I mean, have you been documenting this? Do you keep a dream journal, or you just kind of remember the bits and pieces? Do you uncover more and more, or is there
I don't.
progress in your dream?
I don't know if it's call it progress, but I have a feeling that it's about. I have a feeling my intuition's telling me that as we go through this lifetime and we meet certain people that we're supposed to meet because they're part of our soul group, and the soul group could be core, larger, expanded kinds of groups that you're associated with. I think that all ties into past lives, and I think that when you're kind of, I feel that very strongly. I feel like there's people that I've met in the last 5 or 10 years that are now part of my soul group. I feel like people, obviously, I grew up with are part of my core soul group. You can call that family, intimate, lovers and people like that that you know a long time. It could be part of that core group. My point is that if you're in the astral plane, okay, and you have access to, oh yeah, I know you.
Yeah,
Like because you're not alone in the astral plane, right? Anyone can access the astral plane.
William Buellman says, meeting with small groups of people in a classroom or conference room atmosphere. And Leadbeater says our loved ones exist in the higher realms of the astral plane. So fairies and loved ones supposedly are in the higher, and people who develop their clairvoyance can see them. So there is, it seems to be a hierarchy. And I think that's a good sign if you're meeting up with friends, people from your past. That's what's happened to me a lot. People from, like, this guy Donald Cleary from 7th grade was there, and he was always so super nice. He was always friends with the girls, and I didn't particularly have a relationship with Donald, but he showed up in the dreams recently. And these alternate versions of people from regular life keep popping up.
Well, I wonder if you really had the guts and you were willing to do this, to reach out to the people that you've had, if you have one of those really interesting dreams, to reach out and say, hey, by chance, were you thinking about me, or did you have weird dreams?
Know what happened? Vanessa, I love Vanessa. I wanted to have her talk about this because I had a dream that there was a tidal wave and I had to save my friend Henny, who's a surfer, from the tidal wave. Then Vanessa messages me the next day and says, Krista, I dreamt that you were diving into deep oceans and you were testing the time that you could take, and it had to do with other people's energy. So in a sense, I was spending way too much time in other people's emotional lives, probably as an empath,
right,
sticking my nose into energies that didn't belong to me. And so she saw that.
She connected with you in that on a subconscious level within that dream state.
She said, I saw you on the astral plane.
Right.
And she's the one who had the class, the projection class. So it's really fascinating, the co-dreaming thing. But we said, it takes your desire. Because 2 of my friends who had like a mutual crush on each other, they started co-dreaming, and it was so exciting. But one had an emotional breakdown in their lives because they have a lot of problems. And so I'm guessing, and they kind of just deleted themselves from social media. So I'm thinking they probably deleted themselves in the astral realm too, which is not a good thing. So it takes, third chakra willpower. But yeah, we're kind of running to a close. I know everyone's excited by this topic, and we could
talk about it forever. I mean, I feel like it's something we'll continue this conversation, but I feel like if we're all connected, let's go back to that for a second. All right, if we're all connected, then if we go on the astral plane, we're connected to everyone and everything. So when we're in the astral plane, we're able to connect on a level that we're not able to, say, connect on a 3D conscious level. So on our next show, we're going to try to have Vivian on, and we're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty about what exactly is the astral plane, but even more importantly, that the practical applications of how can you tell the difference, what kinds of things are you experiencing, and what's possible, right? What's actually possible, what's not possible, and to get and leave yourself open to the possibilities that, wow, I that maybe probably intuitively I feel like it just happened and it was something different than normal. And I think that's the key, because you can learn a lot from that. And I think your spiritual growth would shoot through the roof if you opened yourself up to it.
These are some very excellent tips. Like you said, confirm with a friend. Ask your friend first before you make assumptions that you're psychically developed. Ask your friend for proof and try to get dream journals. If you guys enjoyed this topic, give it a big thumbs up so it gets viewed by other people in our community. Subscribe to my channel so you get notified. If you click the little bell button in the link below, you'll be notified when we're live. You can get the notification on your phone, and that way you will get to see the next people who talk about these sorts of things. Thanks so much for the show today, and we'll see you in the next episode.